All right, so last week when we left off, we had been working on the uh, PostNet constructor that allowed us to convert a string of ones and zeros indicating a barcode into our internal format, which we were going to do as an integer zip code. How far did everybody get with that? So we need to finish that up. Okay. So it might be a little easier to understand if we go back and make this codes. Instead of being one string, we could make it into an array of strings. Is that making it hard for anybody, or is there just we don't know how it works, or what do you think? Okay. So right here we have a digit, I think what I want to do is make my default constructor initialize codes, and then have my other constructors call the default constructor. So that's similar to what they did in their derived class. Except it won't let me do that. Sometimes C++ is not as cooperative as I would like. All right, so if we made codes into an array, we would need 10. I don't know. Maybe it's too complicated to do it that way. Okay. So let's take a look at what I'm doing here, though. So a digit is going to be a substring of my barcode starting at I times bar digit, the length of a digit, plus 1, because we are leaving the starting tall bar alone for bar digit length. So um, if we have, for example, 00011, that would be a one-digit barcode with a 1 at the front and a 1 at the end. 1 would be the value 1, right? So we search through our um, barcode digits. And when we find one, we should have a match here. And just for the heck of it, I'm going to put an output statement in here. Let's see. So the zip code So we're going to need a get zip code function in order for that to work. And that's supposed to return an integer, is that right? Which probably means we need to convert our zip here to an integer, right? So all right, let's fire that off and see what we're missing. All right, so it found, it thinks that that should convert to a zip code of 5. Huh? Well, um, okay. Well, let's run it again and we'll stop it this time and see what happens. So what it should be doing is skipping over that first digit, taking the next 5 digits and putting in a digit 0. So let's see what actually happens. So what did it put in there? Yes, 00011, that's correct. So that should be 1. But it doesn't appear to have gotten that part right. Oh, well, I should have told it to quit once it got found a barcode. But let's let's uh, let's see what happens here. Okay, so I was thinking, oh, I see. The problem is I when I updated this, I didn't do my substring properly. This should be J times bar digit. All right. So let's try again. Oh, this time I got one correctly. So let's see if we can put in some more. So 1, 2, 3. Let's see what that does. All right, 1, 2, 3. So here's what we're doing. We're taking the first, we're skipping the 1 at the beginning. We're taking the next 5 characters. That's what this does here, the substring I, which starts out as 0, times the bar digit plus 1 for the length of the bar digit. That's those 5 characters right there that I have highlighted. And we put that in the first A-digit string. And then we loop through our codes looking for that. I know our codes is 10 strings long. Ten 5-digit sequences long. So we're comparing these 5 digits to subsequent pieces of this string here. The first 5 digits, then the second 5 digits, then the third 5 digits. Make sense? So I said 00011 was the value 1, right? So when our number here, our j, is 1, 1 times 5, for 5, all right, here's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, for 5 digits, that's that sequence right there. And when I do a comparison, those will be equal to each other. And so now I can say that digit of my zip string is equal to j which in this case was 1 plus uppercase 0, which gives me the ASCII code for 1. And I store that in that character position. Yeah. So by stepping through this string 5 characters at a time, I can find the one that matches the sequence that I got in my barcode. Make sense? And when I use A2I to convert that to a integer, it gives me the proper value. Yeah, static cast. I don't think would understand what you were trying to do there. A to I is a function that's specifically made to convert a string of digits into an integer. And of course you could write your own, but it probably wouldn't be any more efficient and you might not learn anything anyway, so why make you write your own if we've got one? There's actually some functions um, in more recent versions of C++, like this one, that we don't cover in the book. So there's string to integer functions. Um, there's um, there's something called a toString function, which allows us to convert back from numeric values to strings and so forth. Um, just there's just so much stuff out there. You just have to need it and go find it, really. All right, so we got that. What else do we need to do? All right, so we could, this is not what your program will be doing, but just for the heck of it, if we tried to convert back from a zip code to a barcode, the way we would do that is with our getBarcode function. Just for purposes of illustration. So So in this case, I know what the zip code is, and I need to convert it to a barcode now. So let's see if we can find that toString function that I was talking about. Looks like as long as I have IOStream and string, I can use the toString function. So just for the heck of it, I'm going to run us back through our code. Oh, I'm getting errors now. I have to return a value. So I said 1, 2, 3. Converts to zip code 123. And now, if I convert that integer back to a string, what does my string look like? Oh, it looks like 123 in quotes like that. So now I just have to convert that back to a barcode. So I'm going to need my codes again. And it seems like there should be a better way to do that, and I'm not thinking of it at the moment. So if you think of a better way to do that, be sure and use it. So now what do we do? In this case, we're not comparing it to the code. We know absolutely where it is in the code because the code is in order. 0 is first, followed by 1, followed by 2, followed by 3. So we don't have to compare it to anything. We just go straight in and get it. So barcode string starts off equal to the null string. And barcode string concatenates with, how do I get the string I need out of codes? It it doesn't remember, we just have to calculate it. So each code is 5 characters long. So we want codes, but not all of it. We want a substring starting where? going to be related to this digit we're currently on, right? So I said it's 1, 2, 3. So the first digit is going to be 1. How do we get that 1 and use it to calculate what part of this string we want? We know it's here, right? If we were doing it by hand, it's right here. And that's equal to 1 times 5, right? The 1 is the value of that character in this string. So one way to do it would be to say um, 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 um. As a C string, one character. Again, that's probably not the best way to do it. I'm just coming up with stuff that I think will work. So starting at x times bar what is my thing? Bar digit. I should have made that a. I could probably just go ahead at this point and make these both constants. That would probably save me a lot of trouble. And then I can just take that out of here. X times bar digit for 5. Bar digit. So now what am I doing? Yes. So we've got a long string of all the codes. I'm going to substring into it x times bar digit 5 to get the 5 characters that correspond to the code for the number x, which I converted from the character of the string that I'm looking at. So let's see if that does what we expect it to. 1. This time let's Well, let's do 123 again. We're used to it now. All right. I'll put a different breakpoint in here now. All right. So barcode converts to zip code. Oh, did I not go far enough? And the zip code converts to the barcode. Oh, I left off something, didn't I? All right. So we should do that. So we could put the first one right here. And then when we're done putting those in, we could put the last one right there. Okay. One, two, three converts to the other thing, converts back to 1, 2, 3. So far, so good. So we've got A get barcode, A get zip code, A constructor that makes a zip code or a postnet from a barcode. I haven't made a constructor that makes a postnet from a zip, from an integer. And I didn't really do much with my default constructor. I also did not do any validation. So let's go back to the assignment. And take a look at the grading criterion. So we have implemented a class. It's not complete yet. It still needs it needs another constructor, and but we have the two constructors declared. We haven't defined one of them. It needs to store a zip code in a single internal form. Okay, that's what it's doing. That's what that integer is. It needs to handle 5 and 9-digit zip codes. So we're not paying any attention to how many digits we're getting yet. It needs to generate a check digit if absent. So we looked at last time the postnet check digit calculation in the Wikipedia article. It's pretty simple. We just add them together and do a mod 10. And whatever value we get is the check digit. Or, I'm sorry, we subtract from 10 to get the check digit. So we add them together, we mod 10, in this case that would give us an 8. We subtract that from 10 and we get the check digit. You add that to the end of the zip code. So in their example, 55555-1237 would have an additional digit of 0 because their check digit was calculated as 0. And then you use that additional 0 when you're constructing your barcode, so that that validates that the rest of the zip code was correct. So when it's reading a barcode, you never can tell when something might go wrong. If you get one error, one digit is a 1 when it should have been a 0, then it'll be invalid. That won't work at all. But if you get two digits that are off, so 1 gets turned to a 0 and 0 gets turned to a 1 in the same digit, the check digit will catch that because it won't add up correctly anymore. So it's a redundancy factor that makes sure that the machines are operating properly. For your assignment, what you'll do is you will see if there is one, first of all. So for a 5-digit zip code, there should be 6 digits. If there's only 5, then you're going to say missing check digit should be this value. If it does have 6, then you'll calculate a check digit anyway and compare it to the 6th digit. And if it's correct, you'll say check digit 6 is check digit is correct, or check digit is incorrect. Check digit so-and-so detected should be some other value. So you generate a check digit and validate the check digit if present. And then if there are any other errors, you're going to report on those as well. So theoretically, you could look up valid check digits somewhere. I mean, you could look up valid zip codes somewhere and make sure that the zip code that was entered is actually valid. That would take probably quite a bit more work. But you can determine whether your barcode consisted of proper groups of 5 digits. You can determine if your zip code has 5 digits or 9 digits, which are the two valid links that I gave you, and whether or not they have a valid check digit with them. And you can report all of those errors. We did the translate barcode to zip code. We did the translate zip code to barcode. Once you have the remaining function. Which one did we say was remaining? The constructor that takes an integer so in order to properly validate your zip code or barcode, you may want to have additional private member functions that do validation. You may also want to have a private member variable that determines whether that stores whether you currently have a valid zip code stored in the PostNet object or not. And you could even, encode error values into it and say, you know, invalid barcode entered, invalid zip code, improper length, whatever. You're going to want to report those, but you could just report it as part of the conversion routine and say it's not valid, or you could have separate storage there. So one thing you could do is you could feed you could try to use the string that was entered as a barcode I'm sorry, that should be PostNet. And that should have a capital letter. And then if that turned out to be a valid code, you would say, oh, it's a barcode. Otherwise, it must be a zip code, in which case you have to convert that string to an integer. And see if it's valid. And if it is, you report your results. Otherwise, if it's not valid, then you're going to say invalid code entered, try again, and go on. Does that make sense? Why is it not letting me use A2I there? Oh, that's what I did wrong. It's expecting a C string instead. There we go. Does that make sense? Do you think you can get there from here? All right, we've got about 45 minutes or so left in class, so if you would like to work on that, if you have questions, I'll hang around. Um, Otherwise, that's the end of the lecture and the end of the class, other than the final exam. If I see you next week, I'll say goodbye then. Otherwise, um, we're done. So almost over.